Hey everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best feats in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. There are 41 different feats to choose from, with some of them being essential to builds, while others you can kind of skip. We'll be breaking out all of that in this video, starting off with the most popular one, the Ability Score Improvement, which lets you choose a stat and increase it by 2. Alternatively, you can increase 2 abilities by 1, although typically you're going to respec your character and take a 16 in Constitution, for example, and then just boost it up by 2, which will give you a +1 to that ability modifier. The thing is, ability improvements is honestly a very core principle. I take it on pretty much every build that I do. However, ability score improvement is not going to be an S tier choice, as I want to keep that exclusive to some of the more game-changing options. I also want to mention that ability score improvement on dexterity is better than the other choices here, because dexterity boosts up your armor class as well as your initiative, and there's also finesse-based weapons which can use dexterity as well, with one of the most popular Act 1 weapons being Valor Alluve. Even rogues can sneak attack with that one. Constitution is another really useful one, as this impacts your overall health, which every character needs that resource. Wisdom is another really good one, because wisdom saves are some of the most devastating to go against, and if you're the face of the party, charisma is a good stat as well, but ability score improvement overall is definitely an A tier pick, as we have some other ones here that are absolutely essential. Next is the Actor feat, which I think is actually a really good one. It gives you a +1 to your charisma, so if you started the game with 17, this will take it up to 18. However, you get your proficiency bonus doubled for deception and performance checks. Deception being a pretty common one, especially if you're going with more of a middle of the pack. There's persuasion, deception, and intimidation, with intimidation being more on the evil side and persuasion being more on the good side. Getting double proficiency bonus on deception is really good, ensuring that you're going to land those abilities and checks. I do think that the Actor feat is a solid one, but I'm just going to leave this one probably in the B tier, as I do think we have some stronger feats here, and ability score improvement giving a +2 to a stat I think is just a little bit better. However, next is one of the most impactful with Alert. You don't get surprised, which is huge in Honor mode, but a +5 to initiative is actually kind of absurd when you take into account the changes to initiative in Baldur's Gate 3. It has a D4 initiative die, so getting a +5 is going to outrank you against most creatures just right off the bat, and you can get this at level 4. It's kind of absurd. Now the thing is, as far as initiative goes, there's only a few encounters in the game that you really need a high initiative, and most times a 14 in your dexterity is going to give you a tie with most creatures, but Alert pushes you over the edge at a very early level. Now some of the big ones being Urgir, Cazador, Karnas, Horin, Balthazar, and Steel Watchers, so as long as you got something like Alert and a high dexterity, you can actually match or beat them in most cases. So yeah, there's only a few that do have the Alert feat. You can see the names here. This is on the Baldur's Gate 3 initiative bonus Google Drive. But honestly, I think getting that +5 initiative at level 4, especially in Honor mode, it makes it a lot easier in most cases. And I think that the Alert is much better than even like a dexterity +1 to the modifier there, because that +1 armor class and initiative is nice, but Alert, meaning you can go first, is very valuable. I do understand that if you have a high initiative, and there's even items in the game like the Hellrider Longbow, which will let you get your boost to initiative that way, I still think the Alert is so valuable just because of that D4 initiative die. Going first, especially in a game like Baldur's Gate 3, when combat's typically over on like turn 1 or 2, especially if you're knowing what you're doing and got different items. Yeah, this one matters, especially in Honor mode. Next, we have the Alert feat. This is an interesting one. It gives you a +1 to Dex or Strength. So again, if you take your Dex to 17, you can get up to 18 here. When you're prone, standing up uses less movement speed. It only uses 1.5 meters instead of the normal half. And your jump distance is also increased by 50%. There are actually niche uses for this one. Your jump distance will get impacted by your strength as well. So if you're someone using a strength potion to max out your strength and have high dexterity, it's kind of interesting because you can actually do some crazy stuff with certain items like the Hammerhaft Great Maul here, which whenever you jump, you deal 1 to 4 thunder damage in a 3-meter radius upon landing. And this can kind of be funny because you can use like Step the Wind Disengage, which removes the bonus action cost from jumping. So you can do some silly stuff here because you can just continually jump even more without using up a bonus action, and then you do a 1d4 thunder damage wherever you land. It's kind of silly, but I mean, that's one use that can make this decently viable. Otherwise, I do think the Athlete feat is a little bit, it's just okay. I'd probably say low B tier. I might even just say C tier just to kind of keep this list balanced. Next up, we got Charger, which is an interesting one. So you get 2 special attacks. You get the Charger weapon attack here. You deal a little bit more damage, charge forwards, and slam your weapon into the first enemy on your way. I do want to note, this uses up your action and your bonus action. There's also the Charger shove here, so you charge forward and shove the first enemy in your way. Yeah, these are just fair. I don't think it's actually worth taking in any instances, really. I haven't had a situation where, even while using this, where I liked using up my bonus action this way, when there's so many good items in the game, and even things like the Belm, and you could have it in the offhand to do another main hand attack. Yeah, and I think that even patch 8 just made Charger a little bit weaker comparatively. I might even say that this one's like a low C2. There is some viability, again, similar to an athlete feat, but it's not going to be one that you throw on like alert or an ability score improvement and get a massive boost to your overall character. Next is an interesting one, Crossbow Expert. There's some really good crossbows in this game, and this makes you able to use them at close range without disadvantage, because disadvantage just makes it very hard to hit. This also does double the duration on gaping wounds, but I want to mention one thing that makes this very viable, is that when you have something like an arrow of many targets and hold person, whenever an arrow of many targets hits a crit on the first target, it crits everybody. With the Crater Flesh Gloves, which gives a 2d6 of force damage on top of that because it's an extra crit damage, you get some pretty crazy numbers. Furthermore, what makes Crossbow Expert very powerful in this context is the fact that you can use the Duelist armor, which will double piercing damage from those crossbows, and then arrow many targets spreading crits around to everybody. You do need to have someone with a hold person spell, or you can hold it yourself if you're someone like a bard. But this goes extremely hard with Sharpshooter as well, because Sharpshooter gives a plus 10 to piercing damage, which turns at plus 20 with the Duelist armor. And if you have hold person, you're guaranteed a shot. You don't really need it in the context of that, but if you want to do like some sneak attacks at close range and things like that, Crossbow Expert is actually a really good one. I personally really enjoy this one, but I can understand not a lot of people liking it. So I'm going to throw it like probably top of the B tier, because I do think it is I'll put it right below Actor. Actor's somewhere around there. I think that the Crossbow Expert is an underrated feat, just because hand crossbows are so good, and being able to use them at close range and actually be viable with them is actually pretty absurd. Now next we got Defensive Duelist. Now, I've had some people comment on my video saying, why don't you use this one often? It's like Shield. There's a big difference between this and Shield. Whenever you have a finesse weapon you're proficient with, you can use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus, so a 2, 3, or 4, to your armor class, possibly causing that attack to miss. The big problem is Shield gives a flat out +5, and it's for your entire turn. This only gives like a potential +4, and it's for one action, and you use up your reaction to do so. So that's kind of a problem. If you have other ways that you could use your reaction, you're eating it up using this, and it's not even as good as a shield spell. So while this is still a pretty solid pick, in all honesty, because this will keep any of your finesse-based characters alive longer with less chances of them getting hit, I do think that it is kind of like one that you may want to pick something else. Getting a +1 flat out to your dexterity modifier for higher initiative armor class and weapon attack rolls, I think ends up being a little bit more impactful than Defensive Duelist. I'll still throw this one into the B tier, though. I do think there is some viability in using it, but it's one that I would actually prefer to use something a little bit different. Even going a first in combat and not having to use your reaction to protect yourself from alert, I think is a little bit better. Next up, we have Dual Wielder. This is actually really cool, and when you think this, you got 2 weapon fighting, even if your weapons aren't light. You get a +1 armor class, and while wielding melee weapons in each hand, you cannot dual wield 2-handed weapons. You'd think this is great for actual melee attackers, but what's absurd about this is it's actually really good for spellcasters. It means that you can hold 2 staves, with things like the Marka Heshker staff giving you a free chain lightning, and then a free spell to do another chain lightning, and then something like the Staff of Spell Power for another chain lightning. You can basically end encounters on turn 1 with a sorcerer, because yeah, you can just spam your most powerful spells right off the rip. Another thing, you can also use things like the Staff of Cherished Necromancy and actually get the advantages of using that staff. Dual Wielder is also good because you get a +1 bonus to your armor class, so it does give you a bit more survivability. There's so many great options for this. I like using 2 long swords on a build. There's 2 really good finesse-based long swords in the game. You can have them both scale off of your dexterity and have a crazy high initiative and armor class and all that to put together. I think Dual Wielder is actually a really fun one. It opens up so many fun builds as well. So not only is it a good feat in general, I think it's a fun one, and it's definitely an A tier pick. I think it's not as good as an ability score improvement, but honestly, if you've got a spell cast and you want to spice things up, give them 2 staffs, you'll have a blast with them, or you can do the old Gandalf trick. And yeah, Dual Wielder is just an amazing feat overall. Next is one that I don't think people even know is a thing, Dungeon Delver. You gain advantage on perception checks to detect hidden objects, and on saving throws to avoid or resist traps. You gain resistance to the damage dealt by traps. Now, if you played Baldur's Gate 3 one time, you'll know that you can mostly avoid the traps and they're not too super hard. Having someone that's good on perception checks is nice. However, I don't think that this brings a huge value to the team, and actually spending your entire feat for advantage on perception checks, meh. I think that this is a D tier one. There's almost like no chance where you can use this and get something better that you wouldn't get from something else. Not to say that outside of combat's not important, it's just like some of these are available to other classes like the Rogue, Monk, and Barbarian, and yeah, I just think that this is kind of lackluster. And we got other ones that are really good as well. Durable's okay, +1 Constitution, so if you wanted to do a Constitution-based Barbarian, take it to 17, boosted to 18 with this. You regain full health points whenever you take a short rest. This makes it okay, but honestly, you can spam short and long rests in this game, that I do think that this one is another one that's like, meh. It's nice to get the +1 to a stat, but honestly, in most cases, you're probably better doing anything other than durable, to be honest, just because heals are so easily gotten in this game, and even long resting is stupidly easy, so getting extra health and short rest doesn't really matter too much. When we got things like Elemental Adept, this lets you choose one of 5 different elemental damage types and let you overcome a resistance to that damage type. Now, there's typically, and it also lets you roll, not roll a 1 whenever you're doing damage with that spell. This is really good on a few spells. Like, you can't get force damage, which is fine, but fire damage, Scorching Ray. This turns Scorching Ray into a crazy high damage, not just high damage, because there's fire resistances everywhere, but Scorching Ray sets up a lot of gear, and being able to ignore any fire resistances is honestly quite good. There's not many cold resistances in the game, just like some undead here and there, and like the Act 2 end boss. Acid damage resistance, not very common. Lightning is okay common, but you can make it uncommon. Same with cold by using water and doubling the damage that way. So honestly, it's like fire or thunder, and thunder's not even that well resisted. And if it is, the target's immune to it. So typically you're just going to take Elemental Adept Fire. And I do think that this is a really good one. Just if you want to do a fire-based build, you kind of have to use Elemental Adept to make the fire somewhat viable in a lot of instances. So yeah, I'll actually say that this one is probably an A tier pick just because of, and not only is it strong, but it's kind of necessary if you want to use fire and not have it suck. So yeah. Next, we got Great Weapon Master, a very popular feat for good reason. When you land a critical hit or get a kill with a melee weapon, you get a free bonus action attack. That's a big boost to your power damage, Nova damage per turn, especially as a two-hander because you get an extra attack. Also, attacks with melee weapons you're proficient with and are wielding both hands can deal an additional 10 damage at the cost of a -5 to the attack roll. You can turn this on and off, so don't let it get you down, because sometimes if you see your hit chance is extremely low, turn it off and hit them. But even getting that bonus attack is extremely good because you can do that per turn, so huge boost to the DPS. Now, I just want to quickly mention a mod, the Dexterous Weapon Master here by Incognito Burrito. This is also available at mod.io. It's just a slight boost for if you're using a dex-based weapon one to perform just like this. It gives it +6 damage with a -3 attack roll penalty, but I know this video isn't mod focused. I just want to mention that there because it's a cool option for those that would want something for dex-based weapons. But honestly, Great Weapon Master is one of the best here. Two-handers are very powerful in Baldur's Gate 3 just due to the loot and kind of the builds around those. I'd actually say this one is a little bit better than the dual wielder feat in most situations, just because it opens up weapons to be very powerful. In the early game, it's kind of tricky, but later on, it scales very well. Next, we got Heavily Armored. This is actually a good one. I would actually recommend it for new players. If you have a character with medium armor proficiency and you want them to get heavy, this is the way to do it. Gives a +1 to strength as well. So you can kind of mix and match and add this onto a character. However, I just want to also mention that you can forego taking a feat, like if you're at level 11 and then proceeding to level 12 where you normally get a feat, you can actually multi-class and add in a few different classes to get heavy armor proficiency. The Tempest Domain Cleric, the War Domain Cleric, those are two really good ones to give yourself that heavy armor proficiency. And even the Ranger, if you take the Ranger Knight. It only takes one single level to get that. So this is okay if you want to get the strength +1 and that. But I'd honestly say in a lot of situations, unless you just want to just stick with a full no multi-classing, Heavily Armored is it's an okay choice, I guess. I'll put it in the B tier because I just want it for beginner's sake. But if you're someone that's been playing Baldur's Gate 3 for a long time, yeah, you're going to get more value out of mixing and matching and doing things a little bit differently. There's also the Heavy Armor Master here, which gives you another +1 to strength, and incoming damage from non-magical attacks also decreases by 3 when you're wearing heavy armor. I also want to mention this feat is lying to you. It says non-magical attacks. It actually reduces it by 3 for magical attacks too. Anything with a +2 enhancement or a +3 enhancement is a magical attack, or +1 even too. You get that -3 while wearing heavy armor. It's kind of weird, but it works. So I'd actually say this one is a slight bit better just than Heavily Armored. It's nice to get a boost to heavy armor, I guess. Not something that I would personally pick, but I don't want to say it's a bad feat in general. If you wanted to use it for your heavy armor character, it's good. There's also Lightly Armored. This one's kind of not amazing. +1 to strength or dexterity and get armor proficiency with light armor. There's not many classes that don't have light armor proficiency, and honestly, if you wanted it that bad, you can multi-class, so save yourself the hassle. I'm going to put this at the very bottom of the D tier. I don't think anyone's ever picked this one before, so yeah. Next we got Lucky, which I actually really like. You get 3 luck points. The reason this is so good is you can get them back per long rest, and it makes some big differences that don't use your reaction. So you can use it to gain advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, or to make an enemy reroll their attack roll, so it can protect you. You get 3 of these that you can use per long rest, and it's actually a very powerful feat. It's one that, it's like, you'd think it's not that great because it sounds like it's luck-based. It's actually not really luck-based. Just giving yourself 3 advantages per long rest is actually kind of absurd. The Divination Wizard kind of does something a little similar, but yeah, it's a whole subclass. This is a feat. So honestly, I'd have to say that the Lucky feat is a good choice, to be honest. I'd have to say it's probably in the A tier somewhere. I like taking it, especially if you do like a level 20 build and you want another choice. Try it and see how much you like it. Lucky's actually a pretty solid one. I enjoyed it on a lot of different builds, so I just want to mention that there. Next is an interesting one, Mage Slayer. When a creature casts a spell within melee range of you, you have advantage on the saving throw against it, and you can use a reaction to immediately make an attack against the caster. Enemies you hit have disadvantage on their Constitution saving throws. So this is going to be good for breaking concentrations, obviously. It has to be within 1.5 meters of you. Think about how often spellcasters do that, though. That's the only downside. I like the concept of this, but it just feels like a very difficult one to get to use properly. You do get those advantages on saving throws, so if they do something close range, but a saving throw is likely going to be, I mean, it can be useful in certain cases. I don't want to say it's a bad feat. It's just a hard one to utilize with that 1.5 meter radius. Most times they're going to have disadvantage, so they likely won't attack at that. And honestly, with how situational this is, it's the opportunity cost that I think makes this one like kind of bad. I'm going to put it down into like the D tier, maybe low C tier, just because you're likely better with any other feat. And again, the spellcasters in this game, like it sounds good on paper. I just want to let you guys know. Try this over a full game and see how often you actually trigger this. It won't be often. The game forces spellcasters to attack from range 99.9% of the time, I would say. It's not common you're actually going to get benefit from this. Next, we get the Magic Initiates. These are okay. Bard gives you Bard spells. The Cleric gives you Cleric spells, which, I mean, they're okay. The only one that's really worth taking is the Warlock. This gives you Eldritch Blast and Booming Blade, 2 of the best cantrips in the game. You can cast a level 1 spell once per long rest. So it gives you options like Armor of Agathis, which are okay, or Hex, which can actually be really nice because this will give you additional damage against the target. Hellish Rebuke can actually be okay too, but I'd probably say is the best combination would be to do this, and it uses Charisma. The only problem is, yeah, I mean, Booming Blade doesn't have a spellcasting roll, so your Eldritch Blast uses Charisma. I think in most situations, the Magic Initiatives are like, I mean, it's the opportunity cost again that just makes them not as great. I might just throw them into the D tier because honestly, multi-classing in this game is so easy to do. I'll put the Warlock one in maybe like the C tier. It's just the Charisma scaling that kind of sucks on it when you can just do a single level dip in the Hex. Actually, we're going to put the Warlock back into the D tier because with the Hexblade Warlock, you can do a single level dip and get full Charisma scaling on your weapon as well. The Hexblade's Curse, Booming Blade, Eldritch Blast, and 2 spells. So yeah. For defeat, not worth it. I actually don't think any of these are really that worth it. There is one, however, that is a little bit better. We'll get to that a little later on. But next up we have the Martial Adept. So this gives you 2 maneuvers from the Battle Master subclass and 1 superiority die to fuel them. You get that back in a short rest. That's cool. The best ones are like Rally, Riposte, which gives you an attack that does an additional 1d8 of damage. There's even Sentinel feat, which we'll get to in a moment. Menacing Attack, which you can get from a helmet in the game. And it can be cast every turn. So honestly, as Martial Adept is fun, I don't think it's really that good. And honestly, if you wanted to play with the superiority dies, just play a Battle Master fighter. One of the best builds in the game. So this is another one where I just think it's the opportunity cost of picking this. It's just like 1 superiority die kind of sucks, I'll be honest. I might even just say that this is another D tier one just because, yeah, just play a Battle Master if you really want the die. And if you're doing it for Riposte, there's items in the game that could do this for you, and there's even other things like the Sentinel feat if you really want to weaponize your reaction. Next, we got the Medium Armour Master, which doesn't impose disadvantage on stealth checks. The armor class bonus becomes +3 instead of +2. Meh. This actually becomes kind of a weak choice because of how many good medium armors there are in Baldur's Gate 3 that add your full dexterity modifier, like the Armor of Agility, the Yon T, and even the Unwanted Masterwork Scale Mail, but things like that will give you your full dexterity modifier instead of the +2 or +3 from this. I think this is another one that's probably like a D tier pick. Yeah, it's just not that good. It's there with lightly armored, not something that you're ever going to really use. Then next we got the Mobile feat. Your movement speed increases and difficult terrain doesn't slow you down when you dash. And if you move after making a melee attack, you don't get opportunity attacks. This is okay, but extra 3 meters movement speed's cool and all, and not getting hit by the opportunity attacks. Everything here is fine, but you can get these from items. Like, there's a lot of items that makes it so you don't get hit by difficult terrain. There's even some classes that give you those benefits. Yeah, I don't see this being a very powerful option. I've used it and I've never really liked it. And if you like the mobile feat, let me know why you like it, because I'm just curious. I feel like, again, opportunity cost, you only get 2 to 3 feats, and this one just feels a little bit lackluster. I will say it's probably like a higher D tier pick, but yeah, movement is important. I don't want to downplay it, but there's a lot of ways to get movement boosts here. We have another one here with the moderately armored. So you gain medium armor proficiency and shield proficiency, and you get a +1 to dex or to strength. Another thing, again, is to get back to multi-classing, because if you start with any class that has heavy armor proficiency, I mean, like the fighter starting with that, for example, gives you constitution saving throw proficiency. It gives you second wind for a heal, and it gives you all the weapons, shield, and armor you would ever need. So while taking this is fine, I just, again, would rather the opportunity cost of maybe taking a different subclass. Even if you want a medium armor, you could take the Hexblade and give yourself all those benefits of playing the Hexblade, which is a new addition in patch 8 that just makes that a little bit more better. And Performer. A tier, like, great pick if you want fun. It gives you a +1 to charisma, a musical instrument proficiency. I don't think there's any world outside of roleplay. The D tier is kind of the roleplay tier. I'm just going to set that down there. Not good, obviously. But we're getting some good ones here with Polearm Master. When attacking with a glaive, halberd, or quarterstaff, or spear, you get a bonus. You can use a bonus action attack with the butt of your weapon. You can also do an opportunity attack when a target comes in range. This can be really good because you can also pair this with Sentinel, which makes it so that if you're attacking with an extra reach weapon like a halberd, and you do that opportunity attack when they come in range, the funny thing is, it then takes if you're taking Sentinel here, it stops the target, and if they don't have a ranged attack, they can't hit you. They just get stuck outside of your range. So this actually does pair well together with with the Sentinel feat there. Polearms are honestly an underrated weapon type in Baldur's Gate 3, and I think that this is a good choice, honestly. I might put it into the B tier because I think Sentinel is the better option. This is still pretty good, though, because you can make those opportunity attacks whenever someone comes close to you. Honestly, really fun. And there's some really good halberds and glaives in this game as well. Next up, we got Resilience. So this will give you a proficiency and ability saving throw, which is good, and a +1 to that ability. The only problem is you typically are going to pick your class based on what you really want for the saving throw, and Constitution being the most important one because that's for your concentrations. So this would be the pick, if any. Wisdom is nice too for a +1 to wisdom and better wisdom saves if your class didn't already come with that. But honestly, Resilience, it's an okay pick. It comes down to the opportunity cost of taking this over something else, though. And I have to say it's probably I would say B tier, low B tier pick. It's not terrible, but just not as amazing as some of the other choices we got here. But next we got the Ritual Caster, which gives you 2 free ritual spells. You can, yeah, it's okay. I would actually prefer not taking any of these. I mean, Find Familiar is cool, and Speak with the Dead is cool. You can get this from an amulet in the early game. There's a ton of Speak with Animal potions in Baldur's Gate 3. Disguise Self, you can get that from if you have the deluxe edition. This is Ritual Caster. It's kind of meh. These spells are cool, but you likely have someone else in your party that already has them. So why give them to someone that doesn't really need them, hey? But we got one of the best feats next with Savage Attacker. When making melee attacks, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. This is kind of crazy. It's going to boost up damage depending on what type of weapon you use. Because if you're using like a 1d10 longsword, it's going to re-roll that 1d10. If you have a 2d6 greatsword, it's going to re-roll those. The reason that Savage Attacker is so powerful, though, is it also re-rolls things like sneak attacks and smites. So yeah, if you add an additional 48 of radiant damage and you re-roll those, it just flat out boosts your overall damage, and honestly, a very crazy one at that. So honestly, Savage Attacker works on any melee build, so we're going to roll with that. It only works on melee weapons, though. I just want to clarify that. It doesn't work on your ranged attacks. So yeah, Paladins, Rogues really make a huge benefit of taking this one, and that's why I think it is another S tier pick. We only have 2 so far that they're worth taking. But next we got Sentinel, another really good one. When an enemy within melee range attacks an ally, you can use a reaction to make a weapon attack against that ally. The target ally must not have the Sentinel feat, and you gain opportunity or advantage on opportunity attacks, and when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, it can no longer move for the rest of its turn. Again, this is where pairing it with Polearm Master is kind of crazy, because you can use this and then attack someone outside of the range. They can't make it their way towards hitting you. I think this is a good choice. I will say Sentinel is probably like a high A tier pick. Probably somewhere around there. It's really, honestly, it's equal to Great Weapon Master in a lot of situations. Getting that extra ability to stop a target from moving is kind of fun though, and it makes you a very defensive focused character. It's great on a paladin, fighter, you name it, melee characters will benefit from taking that. And next we got Sharpshooter. This is very similar to the Great Weapon Master, but one major difference. The arrows in Baldur's Gate 3 are absurd, and that plus 10 damage is easily double. You can easily double it. I mentioned the Crossbow Expert earlier, and you can pair those together to do close range crossbow attacks with a Duelist armor to get a plus 20 damage on top of your normal attacks, and that works on all arrow of many targets. And again, if you crit off someone with Hold Person with the Crater Flesh Gloves, it gives an additional crit on everybody, and they take an additional 2d6 damage. It gets insane. Sharpshooter is great for like if you want to just maximize your damage. I do think in a vacuum, Sharpshooter is a little bit better than Great Weapon Master. They do a similar thing. The bonus effect from Great Weapon Master giving you a bonus action attack's nice, but then you consider the fact that your offhand crossbow can already likely do it. You can already do an offhand attack with that too. So you basically have that already built in. But arrows of many targets are really the reason that this carries it over Great Weapon Master, because you can do this attack and get a plus 20 damage on 4 targets. Kind of absurd. I'm going to say it's an S tier pick. Some people may disagree. I know a lot of people love Great Weapon Master, and trust me too. I just think that with arrows, the arrows in this game are just so absurd, and there's not many Great Weapon Master piercing damages where you'd use the Duelist armor, where with the Sharpshooter, that plus 20 damage is actually kind of insane with that. So it is late game, but that's just because it scales so well. And it does pair well with the Great Crossbow Expert too, if you want to do like some close range attacks. It's just arrow of many targets is kind of busted in this game, which makes Sharpshooter crazy because it pairs well with it. That's like 1 + 1 = 3 situation. Anyways, I digress. We'll move on. Shield Master, a plus 2 to dexterity saving throws while wielding a shield, and if a spell forces you to make a dexterity saving throw, you can use the reaction to shield yourself and diminish the spell's effects. On a failed save, you do take half damage. On a successful, you don't take any damage. Meh. Honestly, it's good to get the dexterity boost, but there's so many other feats in this game that are just a lot better to take. I'd have to say that Shield Master's it's not, I'm not going to say it's like dead useless. Like it has a couple situations where it's good, but in most choices, you're probably better taking one of these other feats here just to accelerate combat in an offensive way or go first in combat. But yeah, it's an okay choice. And Skilled. This is okay, I guess. It's a cool one. Giving yourself 3 skills is cool. Getting extra proficiency is always nice. But if you're doing like a solo playthrough, this might be useful, but you typically have 3 other companions who can do skills for you that you may not be so proficient in. This is another one that I just think is not amazing, unless you really like doing the jack of all trades, but then you can just play a bard and a rogue multi-class and get a lot more benefit out of it. So I'd have to say this is another one that's like, it's a D tier pick. There's so many not amazing ones, but we're getting into a couple of really, really good ones here. We got Spell Sniper. You learn a cantrip, and the number you need to roll a critical hit with spells is reduced by 1. This gives you effectively a 5% increase to the crit chance of Scorching Ray, which is a very powerful spell. Anything else that does an attack roll, you can mouse over the spell, and you'll see at the bottom right there if it does an attack roll or not. This is a great way to get yourself Eldritch Blast, and then also get yourself a +1 to your critical hit spells. So yeah, it's actually a pretty decent combination. I was talking about how it's not great to take the magic initiate here. It's much better to take Spell Sniper. Getting that boost to your spell casting is really good. It's one of the few ways to get a boost to spells. So I'd actually say it's probably like a lower A tier pick. It's a good one. Again, Eldritch Blast is just such a good spell. The reason Eldritch Blast is so good is because it scales off of your character level. And I guess another thing that's nice to use your spellcasting modifier as well. So it's great. Now we have what I think to be possibly the best feat in Baldur's Gate 3, Tavern Brawler. You've probably heard of it. I get lots of complaints anytime I use it, but it's needed for 2 builds in particular, unarmed attacks and throwing. This is just crazy. Your strength modifier is added to the attack and damage rolls an additional time. You can run with a dexterity-based attacker, that's totally fine. It's just the meta in Baldur's Gate 3. There's multiple items. There's Hill Giant, Cloud Giant potions. There's the Club of Hill Giant Strength, which you can actually throw on your offhand, meaning you can punch people and still get the effects of a 19 Strength while boosting up your dexterity. You can run with 17 Constitution, boost up to 18 this way. Tavern Brawler is absurd. It's just the big thing is you can get a +8 strength modifier in the end game from potions, and you can spam those all day, and that's doubling it. So you get a 16 bonus to your attack rolls and to your damage. So you're not missing your unarmed or throwing attacks when you have Tavern Brawler, and you're not going to be doing little damage. It gets a huge boost to the overall damage. Tavern Brawler is crazy. I think everyone knows that. It just makes the monk so powerful, and same with the throwing Berserker, throwing Barbarians. I'd have to say this is It's tough. Between Alert and Tavern Brawler, I think that these two kind of, like, you could put them either way. If you hate Tavern Brawler, it's kind of down. Alert just being good on everybody, I think gives it a slight edge here, because you can run your whole team with Alert and you'll just move first all the time, and that's amazing. Tavern Brawler basically does nothing on a cleric, so yeah, I guess that's the distinction I'll roll with there, because it was really hard. I was thinking about this all night. But moving on. So Tough is good in a sense that it gives you, like, a low health character like the Wizard, lowest health in the game. This gives them a big boost. This is actually 2 extra health per level. At level 12, it's 24 extra health. The only downside is you do get less health from taking Constitution increases, but you get a +1 to your Constitution saving throws, which is impactful for a spellcaster. So Tough is another feat where I'd only recommend it if you're using mods and going to like level 20, because that'd be 40 extra health, where it gets a lot more value the higher up you go. I do think Tough is okay. I would actually, if you're a spellcaster, rather the Constitution increase, or Warcaster, which is right below it, but we'll get to that in just a second. I'd have to say overall that the Tough feat is probably like I'll say it's like a high C tier. It's only going to be good if you have like someone with low health that needs a bit more. There's no real situation where I'd take it over something else, unless you're doing a level 20 build. I do take it often whenever I cover level 20 builds, just because that health is a resource that you want to expend, and it's kind of better when it's a lot higher than 24 extra health. But we got Warcaster. This is actually crazy. You get advantage on saving throws to maintain your concentration on a spell, and you can use a reaction to cast Shocking Grasp at a target moving out of melee range. Why this is so good? Well, we'll first start here. Weaponizing your reaction in any sense is always good. This just gives you damage that you normally wouldn't have. So yeah, you can do a Shocking Grasp and potentially stun the target or deal a bit of extra damage to them. And the thing is, Shocking Grasp also scales up with your character level, so you'll be dealing more damage over time. And this is the big thing though, Warcaster concentration. Getting advantage on saving throws to hold your concentration means you roll 2 die and take the higher result. You can get this from the Amulet of Greater Health, but that's an end game item. You can also get it from the Land Druid and their light armor that they get, but Druids can also wear medium armor, so maybe you want to take this on your Druid instead. It's a good feat. In all honesty, it's one of the best in the game, and for that, I'd have to say that Warcaster is possibly like, I would say it's similar to Sentinel for a spellcaster. It's just a bit, actually maybe a little bit better than that, because it's just giving you 2 huge benefits here with holding your concentrations, which is really important. If you break a concentration on haste, goodbye run. If you're in honor mode, this is almost an essential in a certain way. And the 41st feat, the final one that we have here. Don't just ignore the Expedition 33 feats that I have here. Weapon Master. You gain proficiency in 4 weapons of your choice, and your strength or dexterity increases by 1 to a maximum of 20. Nah, not good. Because you can take a single level in the Hexblade and get charisma scaling your weapon, the Hexblade's curse, all weapon proficiencies, shield proficiencies, and medium armor proficiency. Or you could take like the War Cleric and get 3 bonus action attacks, heavy armor, and martial weapons. There's no real way where Weapon Master is actually good in any sense, unfortunately. So this is just another one I'm going to throw into the D tier, as there's many better options. It's the opportunity cost, again, of taking something like that just makes it not that great. So there we have it. Those are the best feats in Baldur's Gate 3, in my opinion. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do think that Alert is honestly the best. Being able to go first is essential, especially if you're able to shut down combat on turn 1. Tavern Brawler, the biggest damage boost in the game. Savage Attacker, the second biggest damage boost in the game. Sharpshooter could debatably be as good, just you have to use a ranged weapon for it. Ability score increases, obviously an amazing one, but it's just top of the A tier because it doesn't bring the same benefits as these 4 here. Great Weapon Master, Warcaster, Sentinel, all amazing feats. Dual Wielder opens up builds. Elemental Adept if you want to use fire damage. Lucky is honestly underrated. And Spell Sniper, give yourself Eldritch Blast with increased crit chances. Great on like a fire-based sorcerer if you want to get a cantrip to do some blasting with. And that is that. That was a pretty big video with 41 different feats. There's a lot of choices. Now, I also did a video recently where I covered the best feat mod, so if you're curious, you can check that out as well. Hit the subscribe button below if you found this video useful. I hope you guys all have a great day, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.